Overview and Scrutiny Committee, who took a very deep dive look at our highways maintenance. And I'm very pleased to welcome Councillor Nick Oliver here, who's the chairman of that committee, who's going to tell us about what was discussed and those issues that you feel that we need to pick up on. So over to you.
Thank you, Glenn, and thank you very much for inviting me. We had two reports to the Communities in Place Scrutiny Committee. The first report was a sort of general report on highway maintenance, an overview and sort of setting out the scale and the context really, and then talking about all of the different activities. The second report was a much deeper dive into the main sort of cause of road problems, which is basically water. And so it really covered sort of gully cleansing, ditch cleansing and road sweeping. And I think it's certainly true to say that I think the general consensus of the committee and the officers and speaking to sort of frontline staff is that we as a council probably don't spend enough money on preventative maintenance, and that perhaps if we did spend more money on preventative maintenance we would spend less on road repairs. So to give you an example, the gully sort of rotation is about once every, couldn't nail down a precise figure, but it was sort of about once every 33 months. Now the leaves fall off the trees once a year, so I would suggest we ought to be sort of aiming to try and get it to around once a year or once a year and a half if we could. And we see on the roads, and we're a northern county and we get quite a lot of rain and quite a lot of cold weather. But we do see on the roads where water pools, that's where the most damage happens to the road. So there was a very sort of comprehensive, detailed discussion. The reports that were presented were excellent, very, very thorough, and the committee asked some very sort of searching questions. And we sort of reached we've got, and we've sort of acknowledged the massive investment that the council has made into 4 new gully tankers. But there were issues raised about those tankers being sort of better utilised and being on the road more often. So, for example, they all have to be emptied in Sleaford. So that's the one in Berwick has to drive down to Sleaford to get emptied. The one in Hexham has to do the same. So if we could find a different way to do that, we might keep them on the road for half a day, a week more. And maybe there's either extra wagons required or a shift rotation or something. But I think the conclusion was that the officers would go away and look at what options could be most economically sort of considered to improve the frequency with which we empty our gullies and sweep our roads. And hopefully that would make some massive capital savings in the future. So that was the main recommendation of the committee. So if you could look, I mean, the budget setting process is sort of well underway now, and but the amounts of money are quite small. The amount that is being spent, I know there's pressures on council funding, but I think it's something like 600k a year spent on preventative maintenance, and we spend many times more than that on capital repairs. So I think maybe it doesn't need a lot of extra money, and in the long term it would save more money than is spent. We're hoping to see in sort of by the end of the year the officers come back and present some ideas in terms of what can be done, and hopefully we'll hear some good news in terms of the budget allocations on that. Another point that was raised was around water coming off to the roads, onto the roads from private land, and obviously nobody has a right to sort of flood our roads. I think there's been a piece of work that was already complete anyway. It wasn't brought up by this committee on improving landowner enforcement and producing a guide that can be sent to landowners, reminding them of their responsibilities. So the committee recommended that we actually keep a log of what enforcement action is taken, so that we can see that it is actually being done, and because often the road is coming off a farmer's field field or a housing estate or whatever onto a highway, and that's causing the problem, and it's being repaired at the public expense. There was also a bit of a discussion around the change of government, and there was a recommendation that the leader, which I think has already happened, writes to all of the new MPs asking them to ask the government to ensure that the money that had been promised by the previous government doesn't get rowed back on. So I think that would be a good thing. Obviously, it does need money. And then there was a discussion around flooding incidents and how they were reported and logged. But I think actually the logging is happening pretty comprehensively. So there's just a question of circulating that to the committee. And then also one of the officers mentioned that there was work being done to help volunteer groups assist with gully, because one of the problems with gully cleansing obviously is the wagon goes round and there's a car parked on top of the gully and you can't get to it. So often it would be better done by either local residents or parish councils or whatever if they had the right equipment and knew how to do it. So I'm sure they'd be willing, certainly in my parish, they'd be very willing to get involved in that if we knew what to do. So that would be a good piece of work. And then finally, there was a discussion about the best work that's going on, and we were just very interested to hear what recommendations come out of that work in terms of general highway maintenance. And that was it, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you to all the members of your scrutiny committee that looked at this at such detail. I'm going to ask Councillor Riddle if you have any immediate response to any of those.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Nick, and thank the committee for the very good work they've done on this. I was very pleased when this actually went to scrutiny because it does strengthen my arm as well for putting a case forward for more resources in revenue for highways maintenance. You've touched on some very, very pertinent points. Driving in this morning, I think we've all experienced water on the roads. It's a very wet morning. We are getting more severe weather events, etc., I'm sure. But, we aren't sitting on our hands here. There is advice out now for landowners, not just farmers, any property owners about both drainage issues and about trees and shrubs, etc., encroaching on the highway. I did already have a report commissioned about the utilisation of the gully tankers and whether we could sweat the assets, etc. So, we're not sitting on our hands here. But really, I'll save most of what I want to say for item 7, which is the Highway Drainage Maintenance Action Plan. But suffice to say that we are, your main recommendation, consider increasing capacity, gully cleansing and road sweeping. We are actually doing that in this year, not just looking at it for next year. Thank you.
Okay, anything from anyone else? No? Okay, so from my point of view, I will absolutely agree to write to the new MPs about the 184 million over 10 years that was guaranteed by the last government about a year ago. That's exceptionally helpful, that extra funding over and above the normal funding we get from government. I will obviously have to make sure that they are aware of this, and they may not be, and that we definitely need that money ring-fenced and actually inflation-proofed as well. So I will write that letter next week. And on the basis of that, I think, John, if we just wait until you tell us on section 5, agenda 7, a bit more about what we're planning to do on actually that area. So thank you again very much. Okay. Anything from anyone else at the moment? If not, can we move on to the Cramlington Regeneration Programme? This is a very substantial investment in the town, brought about by representation from the local Cramlington councillors, who felt that Cramlington needed to have some ring-fenced budget to invest in the town there, given the keenness of those councillors to see the town prosper and grow. So I'm going to ask Richard Wearmouth to just tell us a little bit more about the detail on this scheme.
Thank you very much, Leader. So as you know, we've got a massive regeneration programme going on across the whole of the county. We've got work going on in places like Ashington. We've got where we have the town investment plan there. We've got the town deal in Blythe. We've got stuff going on in Bedlington. We've had the Heritage Action Zone in Hexham. And I know there's potentially a number of people watching in Berwick. We've lobbied for huge amounts of spending in places like Berwick, where we've had a new hospital, leisure centre, spending on the port and on the barracks and all sorts, which I know will be discussed a little bit later. But this one, we're here to talk about Cramlington and what's going on in Cramlington. And as you say, the local councillors there have campaigned to make sure that they get investment in their town. In addition to the other investment that we've lobbied for, like, for example, the rebuilding of the Cramlington Learning Village, which is a huge project that's going on in terms of education in that area. But this is £3.5 million in our capital programme that is going to be spent on improving one of our favourite towns in the county. As part of this process, we've consulted with local residents. 532 of them came along to a drop-in session and gave us feedback about what they wanted to see happening in Cramlington in order to make it an even better place, to make it a vibrant, growing, inclusive and well-connected town. And you can see on page 36 of your agenda pack some of the projects and initiatives that came forwards in terms of the feedback that we received. Things including active travel corridors, a youth zone, activity trails, a dementia garden in anticipation of potentially more spending that we might achieve in the town to create dementia-friendly bungalows, perhaps as part of our housing revenue account works for new homes. And then there's a second set of projects later on that we could potentially achieve. Another set of active travel arrangements looking at improving cycling and walking. Town centre improvements in terms of car parking, which is a major problem for the town because it's such a popular place for shoppers to go and experience Manor Walks. Improvements to Manor Walks itself in terms of making it an even more inviting place to go and spend time, and as well potentially works to the Northburn Centre, which is already a good hub for community sport and community activities, but we feel that we could go on to make that even better. So you've got a collection in this report of early wins, as it were, things that we can start straight away, and things that will take a little bit longer to work up, but will no doubt be completed in the next couple of years. So if you're on page 44 of the agenda pack, you can see what some of those things are. We've got £300,000 or so that will be spent on those active travel corridors, part of the local cycling and walking improvement plan, to make sure that we continue to sort of propel Cramlington's reputation as an excellent place for getting around, and they've got a great cycling network there. We're going to make it even better. There's the activity trail that is planned alongside Cramlington Town Council in Alexandria Park with all-age activity trail and potentially some replacement of outdoor gym equipment and so on. Some work to start up in terms of feasibility studies on the youth drop-in centre, which is something that the town council and particularly the councillors there have been incredibly passionate about, because Cramlington is a great place to grow up. And this will complement that. And in addition, another of those earlier projects at Dementia Village, because we want to make sure that Cramlington is not only a great place to raise a family, but it's a great place to grow old. And again, the Town Council have been incredibly passionate about that and have some really exciting plans. The subsequent bits you can see if you turn on to page 45. More of those active travel corridors, that Northburn Centre with potential of a 3G pitch, multi-use play zone and all sorts of other things that we'll see worked up as time goes on. There's money in this report if you're prepared to sign off on it, as well as I mentioned, to look at town centre parking. Manor Walks is, as I say, a very, very well attended place, but the parking is a bit contrived and there's easy ways to improve that. And the last one on there, town centre gateway, public realm improvements, that you can see in terms of improvements to Manor Walks and so on. So plenty going on, and I know that the town councillor desperately keen to get moving on some of these programmes and projects, and where we can advance them even faster than this report says, we will endeavour to do that, working in partnership with them. It's been great fun so far, and long may it continue.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you very much for all the effort that you put into this, Richard, and also to the officers, primarily Rob Strettle, who have also worked really hard. I would like to underline the effort and the commitment shown by the Cramlington County Councillors, of whom I'm incredibly proud, who have managed to put the argument for £3 million and then help mould the programme that will fit the town fairly across the board and actually make it even stronger and fitter for the future. So well done to Cramlington County Councillors. Yes, Wendy Patterson.
Thank you, Leader. Can I just commend the idea of a dementia garden? There is a sensory garden at Howick Gardens, which is a wonderfully calm and peaceful place. I just think this would be absolutely fantastic for Cramlington. So well done, whoever thought and put that forward.
Yes, I quite agree. That's really good. Thank you. Councillor Watson.
One of the things that we say with our towns is about parking, and you've mentioned this already. Do I take it we are continuing to do free parking in the centre of Cramlington?
Oh, that's a good question. Richard, I assume so.
Yes, absolutely. So we've, as you know, we've been an administration that's committed to free parking in our town centres. It's what keeps them vibrant. It's what keeps the visitors coming here instead of going to places like the Metro Centre or Newcastle, where Newcastle City Council desperately trying to make it as difficult as possible to park your car and go shopping. Welcome to Northumberland. Anyone who wants to come and in the opposite direction, this is a great place to enjoy some retail therapy, and there will be no intention whatsoever, Jeff, to impose parking charges at all.
Good, thank you.
No, I think it's a very important question to ask, because obviously the temptation has arisen to impose car parking charges in our town centres, and it's something that we have declined to do because it makes our council tax even better value for money. I was just musing the other day that this beautiful new leisure centre in Berwick, for example, has just had a brand new car park built beside it, and that's absolutely free as well. So I think it's something that perhaps we don't make enough of sometimes, that free parking really does make a difference, and everyone tells me that they really appreciate it. Okay, thank you. So again, well done to Cramlington. You've had a proposal, I've seconded it. Are you all in favour? Yep, that's unanimous, so thank you very much indeed for that. Now we come on to a very important matter, which is the approval of the council tax support scheme. This is a large amount of money that the council finds every year, £28 million, to support those people who are not able to pay or need some support and help to help pay the council tax that they get. It's a significant amount of money, and our scheme, despite the difficulties of local government finance, is one of the most generous in the country, certainly locally. So I'm going to ask Wojciech how we got to this and how we are committed to continuing it, please.
Thank you, Leader. So every year, each local authority in this country has to approve their own council tax support scheme. That's for working age people and pensioners. Pensioners I think it's prescribed, so we provide up to 100% support for pensioners, but for working age people, we have to set that threshold ourselves. And we set it up at 92% a couple years ago, and we continue with that number, which is one of the most generous in the Northeast, and like I said, probably in the country. I think in the Northwest, we've got only Durham, which is more generous than us, with 100% support, but all other local authorities are less generous than us. So that means that councils run by Conservatives and Lib Dems, they are more generous than run by Labour, which is probably not what public would expect. We are spending, like you mentioned, £28 million every year on that support. Last year we had about 28,000 claimants, and out of that 15,000 were working age. So I hope you all support this. We will continue to provide that support as long as we can and as long as we are the administration of this authority. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for explaining that. It is a very important scheme. It's a very expensive one, but it is definitely one that we are happy to commit to, as you say. Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you, Leader. It is a lot of money and it is appreciated. I speak to many people in my ward and elsewhere, and they really appreciate this. Would you mind just giving us a few examples of, not specifics, but generalisation of what type of people are getting this support from us?
So, in general, you've got people, for example, which are claiming means-tested benefits like job seeker allowance or universal credit. They are eligible to apply for the support scheme. All pensioners are also eligible for up to 100% support, which is very important with the current winter fuel allowance scrap. And these are also people on the low income, so it can be a mother on the maternity leave, for example, which has got low income and needs the support. That's just a few examples, but there is eligibility criteria available on our website, in this paper. So if you need anything else, just let me know, but that's just a few examples.
Thank you, Leader.
Okay, thanks for that. Anything else? Richard?
Yeah, go on. I will just make a quick point, which isn't it? It's so important that we provide support of this nature at a time where you have a heartless government stripping away support for those who receive as little income as £218 a week. We won't ever be a council that does that sort of thing, and I would hope that our new MPs learn a lesson from the example set by this council and think again before the budget that's due to come to them at the end of this month, and that they think again on winter fuel allowance. I don't suppose that they will, but we live in hope.
Yes, thank you. So, as I said at the beginning, this is coming at a time when support for local government is looking decidedly unhealthy in this budget that's coming, and when we get our allowance for next year's spending. So with that background, we could easily have looked at this scheme and perhaps downgraded it somewhat, but we haven't done that. And as you rightly say, there is a table here of actually Labour-run councils, generally, apart from Durham, of course. And we are either at the top of that list in terms of generosity or very close to it. So I'm actually pleased to be able to do that because it does underline our commitments to our key priority, which is to tackle inequalities and to support those people who need our help the most. Something that's quite a rare thing to see in a council of this size as a key priority, but it's one that I think we all absolutely treasure seriously and treat seriously, and will continue to remain committed to, even though it's expensive. It is something that we will remain committed to. Okay, thank you. So, did you propose that? Yes, you did. Seconded by Councillor Jones. Are you all in favour? Yeah, that's lovely. That's unanimous. So, thank you very much for that and for that explanation, Wojciech. Now we move on to a summary of new capital proposals considered by the Office of Capital Strategy Group, and the first one It's a very important one. Again, just going back to what I said a minute or two ago about the need to help people that we feel we have an obligation to help. The first one is around Local Authority Housing Fund Round 3. I'm going to ask our Cabinet member responsible for housing to tell us a bit more about this and to whom this scheme is primarily aimed at.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, Local Authority Housing Fund Round 3. We're being asked, the Cabinet's been asked today to consider a capital spend of 1.2 million. It's a good news story, this, because if we go down this route, it'll be bringing an extra £600,000 of government money in to provide properties for people that we have a moral duty to provide for. This is mostly aimed at people like Afghans who were deemed to have helped and aided the Allies, and they've had to flee the conflict there because they're in extreme danger. So this is round 3. We took part in round 1. We didn't take part in round 2 because we thought it was more important to actually finish round 1 off and bring it to a proper conclusion. So this scheme is run by the Ministry of Housing and Communities. And just in case people are concerned about the type of people it's aimed at, the objectives of this are to ensure recent humanitarian schemes, Afghan and Ukrainian schemes, which offer sanctuary via an organised, safe and legal entry route. So these are people who we know have a right to be in this country for safety. Because it's a hot potato at the minute talking about various sorts of refugees and that, but this is the people who really need it. It's like I say, we've got a moral duty to support these people. Now, if we provide specific housing for these people, this actually reduces the pressure on our existing housing and homeless systems. So it's a win-win situation. So what's the scheme itself we're looking at? The Ministry of Housing and Communities have accepted the Council's proposals to provide 7 homes. There'll be 5 in this financial year, 24-25, and 2 in the next financial year, 25-26. So how can we provide these houses this financial year? Well, obviously we haven't got time to build them, so in order to meet the retired timescales, the properties will be acquired, i.e. bought. And they will mostly be in the southeast of the county for cultural reasons, so the asylum seekers have access to all their cultural needs there. So with that, bringing government money in, adding to our housing stock, it's a win-win situation, so I'd fully endorse the recommendations in 3.2.
Thank you very much. We must always remember that the Afghan crisis and the bravery of our troops when they served there, but also of those Afghans who helped troops try to find a peaceful way through what was a very serious and awful conflict. So this is building houses, providing houses for those people that we need to help on our homelessness list, but also for some of the Afghan refugees. It's absolutely the right thing to do. We showed our commitment to helping those Afghans some years ago, and this is just pulling that forward and ensuring that we actually deliver on the ground. So I think we're all happy with that one, are we? Yeah, absolutely, that's unanimous. So we move on then to the Bellingham Middle and Primary Schools low carbon heating system and the Otterburn First School low carbon heating system. And this is a significant amount of money for both those schools. It's important to make sure that we have a first-class system installed, because those are very good schools and we're very proud to have them in Northumberland. And so that the total spend will be in the region of £1 million. And that, I think, is good use of money, given the fact that they meet our climate change commitments as a council, and will provide a warmer place for children to come to in the cold of winter in Otterburn and Bellingham, because it can get cold up there. Yes. Okay, so any questions? Guy Thompson.
Just to add, Leader, this has been put forward as an environmental project, but really it's upgrading a couple of very old buildings, and it's further investment into our school estate. And this will be a lot cheaper for the schools themselves to run, which will mean they will have more money for teaching and learning activities. You know, that's what this is all about.
Indeed, absolutely. Yes, local member, John Riddle.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I do obviously welcome this significant amount of spend into my ward. I know there has been problems, particularly with the Bellingham boilers. There was a period when we had a flooding incident there, and it took a long period to be able to source the parts, in fact. So I know that these the boilers there will particularly coming to the end of their life. But you know, I do welcome this. It'll actually also, there's a safety issue here as well, because it means that we won't have vehicles driving into the school and reversing, etc., etc. So, you know, it's a win-win on all sides. Thank you.
Good, and well done for your work on this. Thank you. Are we all in favour of this one? I think we are. That's unanimous as well. Thank you. We now move on to New Hartley Bungalows. Now, this is a very, very exciting development that we are involved with. I'm going to ask Colin Horncastle to give us a brief explanation.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, we've been asked today to approve the additional spend of just over £500,000 for the development of 9 bungalows at New Hartley. So, what is this? Well, it's something that we have been talking about for quite a while, and I have been taking lots of advice on, because the original scheme from 3 or 4 years ago, if we're going to do it now, it's like I say, it's going to cost an extra £500,000. So why? Well, there's reasons why. Because the original costings from 4 years ago, when it first went through planning, is it was the cost of construction has seriously gone up then since the days of COVID, and also this is a much higher specification. Also, there was nothing in the original scheme for things like wet rooms and all the other aids that people might need to spend the rest of their lives in these houses. Because the original houses, if people had gone into them, if they got certain health problems later on, they would have to move out. But in these houses, they can spend the rest of their lives there. They're actually kitted out for the whole life experience. So costs have gone up. We've got to factor in some professional people into this, quantity surveyors, etc. So yes, the cost has gone up by 0.56 million, or just over £500,000. And after taking advice from the Director of Housing and looked at this properly, yes, the cost has gone up, but I think it's still value for money. These are excellent houses.
Great. I'm going to ask Wendy Patton to tell us a little bit about these, because are these sheltered houses?
No, they're not. No.
What
Well,
will...
they're not extra care and supported housing,
Right.
which is in my portfolio.
Yes.
These are just bungalows for older people, as far as I'm aware.
Right, so they will have extra things like the wet rooms and so on, won't they? Yeah. So quite a major investment. And all I can say is I'm really pleased we're doing this, and I think the demand is definitely there, and this will be a great thing to see new bungalows built with those extra facilities in this part of Northumberland. So, yep, I think we're all happy. That looks unanimous. Thank you. And then the network infrastructure update, how is that going to benefit local residents, please, Wojciech?
I will tell you. It's a very expensive scheme, if you look at it, but it's all about enhancing our cybersecurity. Typical lifespan for the IT equipment is between 5 to 7 years. Our current equipment was used by more than 10 years, so we need to replace it. Outdated equipment puts us at risk of any cyber threats, expose us to actions of criminals. Also puts at risk the data of our residents. So if you ask me how it benefits the residents, it doesn't. But if our equipment fails, it will have a significant impact on our residents, on our services, and that IT equipment is crucial to provide the services to our residents. So I recommend we go with it and approve it.
Okay, I think, is everyone happy with that? Good. Okay, so all of those are approved, all proposed and seconded, and all agreed unanimously. Okay. I'm so sorry. Yes, it was proposed by Councillor Wearmouth, seconded by me, and all in favour, which takes us very, very neatly on to our next paper, which is this agenda item 7, which links very closely to the work that the Scrutiny Committee did. I won't say they made you do this, John, but it was certainly very helpful to get that extra backing, wasn't it? And this is about dealing with our roads and our pavements and our bridges and all those other things that we have to look after, particularly in weather like this. Over to you.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, as I said, I think in my opening remarks, I actually welcome the report. The fact that, we have had this prolonged period, and I think it's probably something that severe weather events are becoming more common. We've had one of the wettest periods, and it looks as though we're in for another wet period again. So, we must keep the water off the highways to maintain their integrity. We have been firefighting in some sense, in that we've been having to take people that were drivers, etc., to help with repairs, etc. So, we weren't utilising vehicles to the absolute maximum. We have about 84,500 gullies in this county, which is a massive, massive number. But through things like the BEST programme and updating our back office systems, we know now a lot better and more robust data on which are the problematic ones, which ones we need to pay particular attention to and clean more often. Ideally, some of these should be done every 3 months, not every 3 years. So we have got a big hill to climb here. On the road sweeping, we have 5 large road sweeping vehicles in the county deployed with neighbourhood services. And again, we need to utilise them to a greater extent. It's not easy just to pluck drivers and train people out of the air. This is going to take time. It will be something that I will be fighting for in the budget round, but it's something that will have to take its reasoning with other calls upon the budget in the next round for the budget round. But in the immediate short term, we are finding over £1 million out of the severe weather reserve. This is in effect new money going into highways, because it's money that's just been sitting in a reserve, so it will be extra work. And what we are going to do is have an 18-week period, an intensive period, right across the county in all 4 areas, different gangs deployed. There will be contractors that are brought in, so it is additional resource to really try and get on top of drainage and gully cleansing and sweeping detritus and things from the road verges. I think I mentioned earlier on that we've also got on the website details about landowners' responsibilities, etc. So, we are doing, I think, what we can at the moment. And through the BEST programme, we are trying to identify even greater savings in all sorts of areas and highways. So, I'm confident that the roads are getting better, but if we aren't to end up with a lot of potholes this winter, then we must keep the water off the roads, and this is, in my opinion, the start of a solution.
Okay,
So, I move the recommendation.
thank you very much, and I'll second that. Are there any questions or thoughts, comments, queries? Yes. Yes, Councillor Jones.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to mention particularly the rural roads. Obviously, we're looking at how much we can do on those. But it's not just the rotation of the gully cleaners. It's the gullies that are long forgotten, that they've been blocked for so long that they're just not cleared at all. And I think if we do some work on those, it would make a big difference, particularly in the areas where we get a lot of flooding. There's usually a blocked gully somewhere behind it.
Yes, a very good point.
Yes, Councillor Jones, I'm sure that will be part of the solution. Obviously, it's the same amount of resource we're deploying in each area, so therefore in the likes of the west and the north, there's a lot more ditches. in the urban areas, there's an awful lot more gullies, so it's a bit of a quid pro quo with the areas. But you know, yes, we are finding gullies, you know, and they are getting logged on the system. But if you know of any particular problem ones, then you know, get in touch with us, and I'll be happy to log them. Thank you.
I'm sure she will. Okay, anything else? So I think this is absolutely the right thing to do, to find this new £1 million out of our budget. I hope people don't expect us to be able to create miracles, because if you think about the 3,200 miles of roads, then you add on to that the thousands of kilometres of pavements, then multiply that by how many drains and gullies there are. It is a massive job, but we are going to tackle this by finding the money to do it, and I think it will make a big difference, and it's absolutely the right thing to do. And I was actually very interested when I was looking at one of our new improved road schemes, of which there are actually quite a lot in Northumberland, that we do new drainage before we actually lay the tarmac. And that's got to be the right thing to do. So well done, and we will continue to fund this programme as it is necessary. Okay, anything else from anyone else? If not, you proposed and seconded.
If I can just say,
yes,
Chair, that you know what you've just said there is part of the new approach, which is more what we call a verge-to-verge approach. Right. So when we are tackling something, we have a road closure, we try to do lots of jobs all together.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Okay, so there we are. Are you all in favour? Yeah, it looks absolutely unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. So now, more money. Yet again, Councillor Riddle, you want more money for fleet replacement programme, approval for refuse collection vehicles. And you're going to tell us why it's really important that we keep on top of our vehicles, even though it would be much easier to let them last a little bit longer potentially and cost an awful lot more to maintain. It is absolutely right to keep our fleet up to date and modern, and that investment is hard to make. It's hard, a lot of money to find, but it's the right thing for us to do.
Yes, Chairman, Leader. You've stole some of my thunder, because I did challenge us to, you know, £13.1 million. It's an awful lot of money here. You know, it's I think it was 84 or 86 wagons, really, you know, refuse wagons, and you know, could we not make them last a bit longer? But apparently all the data tells us that when these wagons get past about 6 years old, because they're used every day, day in, day out, the maintenance costs escalate dramatically, and so does the reliability. Obviously, you know, getting the bins emptied, etc., and particularly the increased recycling rates that we are going to attain, and the new materials that we're going to have to recycle, necessitate us having a fleet which is fit for purpose. And that is exactly what this is about. This is about replacing vehicles in a timely manner that are more efficient and will do the job for us and not let residents down with missed bin collections, etc. So I'm afraid that, yes, it's a lot of money, but it's something that has been explained to me thoroughly, and I'm quite confident to propose the recommendation.
Okay, so that's proposed. It's seconded by Councillor Watson. Any questions or queries on this? No. I think we are happy that we continue to keep on top of our fleet management, and even though it's hard to find the money, it's absolutely the right thing to do. Are you all in favour then? Yes, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now, another incredibly interesting and very forward-thinking bit of work, the Berwick Partnership. Now, would you like to tell us, Guy Renner-Thompson, about are we finding more money for this bit of work, and what is it going to entail?
Thank you, Leader. I mean, this is just the latest part of our exciting redevelopment of our school estate across Northumberland. I'll run through my little list again because I always enjoy doing it. We've put money into Hayden Bridge, we've rebuilt Hexham, we've rebuilt Ponteland, we've redeveloped Holtwhistle. We've just completed some major works in Amble, which I'm sure we'll hear about. We've got money, we've managed to find some money for Kevy in Morpeth, and of course we've got the work going on in the Berwick Partnership, which, as you see from the report, well, what this report does, sorry, is increase overall funding to just over £50 million, which is a huge sum of money. The money that this report is for the changing of the first schools into primary schools. But it's not just that, it's also for St Mary's to increase its SEND capacity, so we'll have an extra SEND capacity in the north of the county, so those children won't have to travel to Alnwick or Amble or Blythe or one of our other special schools. It also includes a community hub in Wooler, where the now redundant, or will soon be redundant, middle school is becoming the family hub and a community hub and all of these other wonderful things. So the budget for those particular that particular aspect has been raised to £8 million after we've gone out and done the designs and found contractors to do the work. You know, I think the key point in this is that this is not just a project for Berwick or Berwick Academy. You know, this is a project for the whole of Northumberland, from Wooler to Belford up to Berwick. So it's not just about Berwick town itself, it is about the wider rural area where there are many, many schools impacted, and we are truly investing in that part of the county.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the work that you've done on this. It is absolutely crucial that we remain absolutely focused on the programme that we have here for Berwick, and the improvements we're going to make in this step will make this whole project so much more attractive in terms of providing the right and best education for our children in North Northumberland. And that is always and always will be our primary consideration, to provide the best education for the people and children in North Northumberland. Yes, question from Councillor Watson.
It's more a statement than a question, I have to say. In Amble, we have just opened our new middle school and SEND operation. It is so good. It is so professional. It is so well done that the teachers from the previous school, when they saw what we were presenting, they burst into tears. That's what we're doing. It's great. Well done.
Quick correction there, Councillor. We're not building a new middle school in Amble. The old middle school has been converted into a primary school and a special needs school as an extension of the special needs school in Alnwick that we already have.
Excellent. So that, of course, is one of our three major projects when it comes to our super schools project. We're currently building the first one at Seaton Valley, which is looking unbelievably fantastic. Huge and going to have so many great facets to it. The Amble development that you quite rightly have talked about, and of course the Berwick development here, to which we remain focused, as I say, on providing the best education for our children in North Northumberland as the sole and only and main, certainly the sole and main point about the project which we are undertaking, because that is obviously and always will be the most important thing. Okay, so anything else from anyone else? In that case, it's been proposed by Councillor Brenner-Thompson, seconded by Councillor Wearmouth. Are you all in favour? That is absolutely resoundingly unanimous. Thank you. This takes us on to our Children's Services initiatives to accelerate interventions in children residential care and SEND. There are two parts of this report really, aren't there, Guy? Could you just take us through both, please?
So, as a bit of background information, councils across England are facing huge financial pressures in two main areas to do with children's services. SEND services, because the demand is increasing, and children's residential care places, where there are many, many councils that have, I would say, buried their head in their sand and are already £100 million or so over budget on their children's residential care placements. We're not doing that. We're taking the bull by the horns, and we're trying to find ways to work out this problem so it is no longer a problem in future years. So we've done a big bit of work into this, and it's in the recommendations. The first part is to increase the budget for our foster carers so that they get an increased payment per week, you know, up to £210 from what it is now. That does two things. It brings us in line more with our neighbouring authorities. We had a petition in from the Northumberland foster carers asking for more money, and we've listened to that, and we've done this. But we were already doing this work before that petition came in. It's something I'd like to emphasise. Now, by improving our fostering provision, it's not just about the weekly fee they get, it's about all the other support that goes with it. And by improving that, we're hoping that less children will end up in the residential care system, which is not only good for the child, but it's also good for the council's finances, because once they're in that residential care system, the costs go up and up and up. There are some horror stories of, you know, £20,000 a week for certain children to be in these residential care systems. So we've got recommendation 1. We've got money there for a foster care recruitment campaign. Recommendation 2, to approve an immediate uplift in the weekly payments to foster carers from £183.49 to £210 per week per child. That is a change in that we used to do it per household. So if you had 2 children, you got this £210 a week. Whereas now, if you have 2 children, it'll be £210 per child. So it's quite a large increase. We've also introduced a band 3, which we didn't have before, which is an even greater sum of money for those children that have additional needs within the foster system. So that, in a nutshell, is what we're doing. We're also accelerating our existing children's home build programme, which we've been talking about for a long time, and we've got one registered now in Pegswood called Pegsworth, but that is just one of many that we're wanting to build, so that we have our own in-house provision. We're not relying on private companies or other third sector parties to provide our children's residential care, because they're the ones that are really expensive. If we do it ourselves, it's cheaper. So we're really looking into the future. We know this is a problem for the council. It's a problem for councils across the UK, but we're really trying to do something about it. We're not burying our head in the sand. So it's a two-pronged approach: make our foster caring system better so children stay in that system, and building more children's residential care homes.
Excellent. So there we are. Are there any queries or questions about this? Again, thank you very much for all the work that's gone on. Very, very grateful to our staff who have done an enormous amount of work in a short time. We were very keen to ask them, is there a kind of scheme that we could justify, like an investor save scheme, that we could actually use our own money to build and procure placements, as you say, for some of the children that we look after or who need special help. Those children are as important as our mainstream school children, and we will not cut back or in any way shirk our responsibilities. So we are looking at how we might be able to save the council taxpayers' money, but still provide the level of care that is needed. We know that, that both the cost of adult social care and children's social care has increased by something like £50 million over the last 5 years, which has had to come from our resources here. That's net of any money we might get from government. So it's an incredibly expensive but very important function we're carrying out here. And so far as foster carers are concerned, all I can say is thank you very much to all of them for everything they do. And I think this is the first step in recognising our commitment to them. So that's been proposed by Councillor Rona Thompson, seconded by Wojciech Blazai. Are you all happy? Yes, that's lovely. Thank you. And that takes us to the delivery model assessment for the provision of museum services in Northumberland. I'm going to ask Councillor Watson, who has been leading on this, to give us a full explanation of where we are with this.
Culture in Northumberland is very important to us. It's part of our whole makeup about healthy lives and how we look after our citizens. Unlike other councils throughout the country, we're managing to sustain a very good level of culture, even though we're fully aware of the fact that it's a non-statutory requirement and we need to have value for money. We have, throughout this process of that I'm going to outline to you today, we have been trying to be very inclusive. We have involved Museums for Northumberland all the way through. We have advised the opposition leaders of what we're doing. And we've even been to scrutiny to look at our direction of travel before we've come here with the decision that we'd like you to take today. If you wouldn't mind, oh, I should have had this one.
I've got this one.
Yeah, oh, okay. If you don't mind, I'd like to split this up into two sections. The first one is talking about Berwick. Museums Northumberland currently manage a countrywide service including the 4 museum sites, which are Woodhorn Museum, Berwick and Art Gallery, Hexham Old Jail and Morpeth Chantry. It also includes 2 further historic sites in Hexham, the Moot Hall and the House of Correction. However, Berwick is excluded from this service, and it will be because it's forming part of the Living Barracks Partnership Project, which English Heritage, who own the site, are conducting. This will be delivered between a partnership of English Heritage, the King's Own Scottish Borderers, the Maltings, and the Northumberland County Council through the Living Barracks Project. Museums Northumberland declined to be involved in this some time ago, so they weren't a part of the discussions that have been held there. So that's going to be where we are in Berwick. Just to be clear, we don't own the site, but we do own the archives, and we do own all of the artefacts. The archives themselves will be placed in the building in a couple of years' time, and the archives will always remain, the artefacts will always remain ours, including the burial collection. I just say that to make it clear to everybody. So, moving on then, what we're looking at now is what to do with the rest of the museum service in Northumberland. The contract we had with Museums Northumberland expired a year ago, so we had decided to extend that for another year while we had an independent review of all our museum services throughout the county. I stress it was an independent review. You are fully aware of what happened, as I've kept you informed, and you've got a very good briefing in front of you today. The outcome of that review was that a shared museum service between ourselves and Tyne and Wear Museums is the best and most effective value for money option for us, and also one that we believe will improve our offer throughout the county to the general public. They're not a common thing, shared museum services, but Tyne and Wear has been doing it for a number of years, and it's highlighted as an exemplar. So we're very pleased to be able to be part of that. And I personally have spoken to some other cabinet holders in other councils who are part of that service, and they say it's very good indeed. We will not give, again, our sites away. They remain ours. The artefacts, again, remain ours. It is just simply that there'll be a management of it will be handled by Tyne and Wear. I will be on an interim board that sees the transfer over between now and next April. In fact, I'll chair that board. And then when we have the board finalised next year, I will be on the board of a fully voting member of that board made up of other councillors throughout the North East. The conclusion we reached really is that shared services arrangement provides more opportunity for us than any other model. It's the best value for money we can get. We believe it will enhance our operation to the public, and there will be no redundancies of our staff, as they all will be 2 feet over to the new regime. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have had a chance to read the report and can see, like me, you believe that this is the best way forward for our cultural and museums services. And I ask you to approve the recommendation.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Very good explanation. Yes, Richard.
Thank you, Jeff. That's a really clear and thorough report. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for all of the teams that make up the museum service in Northumberland, to be honest. The offer that is available in the wider Tyne and Wear is exceptional, and I think that they'll only benefit from being part of that wider community. Delivering services in this space is really complicated, and trying to get across how you project that to the public, and there'll be all sorts of lessons that they can learn from each other as part of a wider community and wider set of incredibly dedicated folks in this space. So good luck to it. I think it's a great scheme, and it's absolutely the best way forward.
Thank you.
Take one more question, then I want to go to the chairman of the scrutiny committee who's looked at this. But yes, first of all, Guy Runner-Thompson.
Thank you, Jeff. I just wanted to congratulate you on this, and it was a pleasure to meet the chief executive of Tyne Museums, and he confirmed to us that the name's changing to Museums North East, which I think people in this part of the world will be much more happy with. And what I asked him was, would there be support available for other museums that aren't part of this? Because of course we've got some rather large museums in Alnwick, for example, which is our county town, and which aren't part of Museums Northumberland or Museums North East, and we've got some very small museums, like I have one in Belford, which is an absolutely fantastic little museum about the parish, and I'm biased because my mum started it, but it's really wonderful, and everyone watching should go and see it. And he did confirm that there will be support from the new organisation to these smaller little community museums, and so really everyone will benefit from this, not just from the museums that are named in the paper.
Good. Now, I'd like to ask Councillor Oliver about the scrutiny committee that was held. Now, there's been a slight disparity in message about the fact that we decided there would be, if you were prepared to hold it, a special scrutiny committee available to any member to come if they wanted to look at this proposal. And I believe that scrutiny committee took place about a week or 10 days ago.
Yes, we had a special, well, I'm not sure it was special, but it was a scrutiny committee, and we also heard from the library service as well in the same meeting, which was quite useful actually, because there obviously was a bit of an overlap. Very comprehensive report presented by Maria, ably assisted by Jeff. And we heard about the challenges that Museums Northumberland has been facing, as we've experienced sort of rising visitor numbers in Northumberland as a county. We've seen declining visitor numbers at some of the museums here, which is a shame. So, and we've also heard about the financial challenges that the Museums Northumberland are facing, and so it was quite clear that something needed to happen. We had quite a detailed discussion about not just the option in front of you today, but also the other options that were considered, and I think the committee agreed that there'd been a pretty thorough process. There was a comprehensive, unanimous agreement with the recommendation that was being proposed across all members of all parties. And I think that the committee as a whole felt that actually it would do a number of things. First of all, it would bring more visitors to those great assets that sort of highlight our industrial and sort of cultural heritage in the county. It would reduce the potential for public sector, public purse subsidy in the future, because that's certainly the direction of travel that we're heading in at the moment. And it would also make Northumberland a greater part of the northeast sort of regional cultural and heritage offer, particularly with the formation of the Northeast Combined Authority and all of their plans. One councillor raised issue about the decision-making process. I think it's important to sort of acknowledge that. Simon gave a very comprehensive response to that, explaining that basically this was a cabinet decision and not a full council decision, and that was set out in our constitution, which virtually all members voted for earlier in the year. I think there was unanimous support for the process and unanimous support for the recommendation. There was also a point raised, which I think was covered in our report, that there would be engagement with the trade unions as part of the TUPE process. There was a lot of discussion about the safeguarding the jobs and the stuff, but it was clear that the TUPE regulations apply in this case as you'd expect them to. So overall, positive support from the committee.
That's really helpful. Thank you very much indeed. So, yes, Wendy Patterson.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to refer in regard to Berwick-upon-Tweed and the Living Barracks project. If I could just read from the report, it says the project will showcase the Berwick Borough and wider history collections, and there will be a renewed focus on the archaeology and archival history of Berwick, offering a renewed storytelling for the town and its people. It's one of the things that I felt strongly about, that Berwick is probably the most historic town, or one of the most historic towns in the country. And I just feel that we need to know more about it. We know it's changed hands many times. We also know, well, I don't think we know enough about its origins, how Berwick started. I think all of that highlighted in here is going to be marvellous for the people of Berwick-upon-Tweed and for the visitors who go there.
Very wise words. Thank you very much indeed. So to summarise, Councillor Watson has mentioned the fact that Northumberland takes its culture offer very seriously, and we are determined to continue to do that and put money into it. And because we find it so important, we want to make sure that we are providing the best offer and also at the best use of council taxpayers' money. We had an independent review because we deliberately wanted to make sure that we got an expert to come in and advise us on this, and we gave the present provider another year whilst we carried that out because we felt it was so important to have done that. The outcome of that is a partnership in Berwick that is an outstanding one, that will see the 300-year-old Berwick barracks transformed from being an almost empty building into a thriving culture and other facility. So that's absolutely great, and I'm really grateful to all those partners who have been involved. And finally, this is a fresh approach. It's a new approach, providing a service that we want to be the best. And that is something that we will remain committed to. And I think this paper describes that in perfect detail. It may be necessary for me to ensure that the very good people of Berwick actually understand what's happened here, rather than perhaps the message they've picked up from elsewhere. And I'll certainly do that. So, are we all happy with this? Can I have a show of hands? We've had it proposed and seconded. We're all in favour. So that takes us to the end of the agenda, but before I close, I want to say a very short word about a friend of ours who died, had in a very untimely way recently. I'm referring to Suki, who was our monitoring officer for a number of years, and who was a tower of strength and an absolute leader of probity in local government, who wasn't afraid to stand up for what she felt and wasn't prepared to be bullied by anyone. And I thank her for that enormously, for having been very, very important in the turning around of this council and being prepared to face up to people to make sure that that actually happened. I will be saying something else at council next month, but I just wanted to say how sorry we are that she's had such an untimely death, and I hope very much that I might be able to go down to represent the council at a funeral when that takes place. So thank you, Suki. And that's the end of the meeting. Thank you all very much for attending.